Welcome to Super Easy Physics and Mathematics. Today we are looking at the solution to Cambridge Lower Secondary Checkpoint, Paper 2, October-November 2022. This paper is solved in detail step by step, and this is a smart revision edition because we are going to explain the major concepts behind each question. So let's jump in. You are expected to answer all questions. There are 14 questions, and then the total mark for this paper 2 is 50 mark. Wood is an example of a renewable energy source. State 2 more examples of renewable energy sources. We have solar power, and the next is hydroelectric power. You have other sources of renewable energy. We have wind, ethanol, biogas, biofuel, biomass, wave, and tidal wave. These are energies that don't easily run out and they can be replenished or replaced. Many countries are stopping using non-renewable energy sources. Write down 2 reasons why. The reason is, 1, they will run out, they become extinct, they can be exhausted, and they have limited supply. They cause pollution to the environment. They cause acid rain. For example, they emit carbon dioxide, which dissolve in rain, and then the water become acidic. The pH value is less than 7. And they cause climatic change and greenhouse effect or global warming. So these are some of the reasons why countries are phasing out non-renewable energy sources. Question 2. This question is about elements, compound, and mixture. Draw a line from each type of substance to a statement about the substance. So we have type of substance, we have a compound. What is a compound? A compound is a pure substance that contains 2 or more different types of atoms chemically combined together. So that's why they are called them compound. So you might be 2 or more pure element or substance. Then the next one is element. Element contain only 1 type of atom. Example, sodium, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. Those ones are elements. They have only 1 type of atom. Then the next one is mixture. A mixture is 2 or more substances that are put together that can be separated by a physical method. The 2 materials that are together in a mixture are not chemically combined. They are not chemically combined. Now, Lizzie wants to make hydrogen sulfate. She uses zinc and dilute sulfuric acid. Look at the step she takes. They are not in the correct order. So you have step A to G. Write the letter to show the step in the correct order. 2 has been done for you. So step C and step F has been placed in order. So we have to fill in the 5 missing steps. So to do that, think the first step is C. Like we have the first step. She placed 25 cm cube of dilute sulfuric acid into a beaker. So that is the first step. So after putting it into the beaker, what do you think she will put next? She warmed the dilute sulfuric acid. because the dilute sulfuric acid will not react with zinc when it is cold. So she warms it. After warming it, increasing the temperature, the next thing she will have to do is to add zinc powder. She adds zinc powder A to the warm dilute sulfuric acid until no more zinc reacts. So as a reaction is taking place, so you have A. Then the next step is going to be F. So next step is already given to us. She filters F, the content of the beaker, to remove the unreacted zinc. Then the next step is going to be E. She places the filtrate of the zinc sulfate solution into evaporating basin. Then the next step is going to be B. She evaporates the solution until some of the crystals start to appear. So that is the next step. Then the final step that we've not looked at, you leave the solution to completely crystallize. So that is the last step to this process of making zinc sulfate. When zinc reacts with dilute sulfuric acid, a gas is made. Write down the name of the gas. So zinc, you have the zinc solid, mixed dilute sulfuric acid. So if you balance it, it's going to form zinc sulfate plus hydrogen gas is emitted. When Lily uses hotter dilute sulfuric acid, the reaction is faster. Explain why. Use idea about particles and collision. The major reason is the particle of reactant have more energy because they are hot. So the heating process will add energy to the internal energy of the reactant. The particle reactant, the particles of the reactant will move faster, and that will involve more collision per second. So it will increase the rate of reaction. Let's talk about reaction is faster. So the reaction is taking place at a faster rate. What equipment does Lily use to accurately measure 25 cm cube of dilute sulfuric acid? She uses measuring cylinder, or she uses volumetric burette. She can also use the volumetric pipette. Identify one safety hazard in this experiment. Sulfuric acid is corrosive, that it can burn. Sulfuric acid causes chemical burn. So, and that's why if you are performing an experiment that has to do with acid, you have to be very, very careful and make sure it doesn't spill on either your book or the surface of the table or your school uniform that you are wearing. And that is why you have to wear lab coats. And in order to avoid this, so let's look at how we can minimize the hazard. Describe how this safety hazard is reduced. It can be reduced by wearing laboratory coats so that the chemical, if it mistakenly spill, it doesn't touch your body, and then it will not spoil your uniform. So the laboratory coat will serve as a covering, a shield to your body. And then you also wear hand gloves. The hand glove is to protect your hand from making direct contact with the corrosive or the chemical that can burn. So question 4 had to do with light. Gabriela investigates light. She shines white light through a magenta filter. Circle the correct statement about the magenta filter. Now, before we go into the circling, let me just tell you about the principle of filters. So we'll look at, if you have your color, the addition or the mixture of colors. So you have the primary colors are, you have red, green, and blue. These are the primary color. Then you have the secondary color. So the mixture of red and blue will give yellow. So the mixture of green and blue will give a cyan. Then the mixture of blue and red will give magenta. So magenta. Then if you mix red, green, and blue, the combination of these three primary colors will give you the white light. So when you shine a white light on the magenta filter, now this is a way you can remember this mixing of color. I tell my students, you use this acronym. Rich young girls can buy magenta. So you go in your anti-clockwise direction from red. So you go anti-clockwise direction, go like this to go round. So rich young girl, just like the way it is, rich is for red, young is for yellow, green, girl is for green, then can is for cyan, then buy is for blue, then you have magenta. So if you go in that order, so that is the way you can remember them. And once you remember that one, so you can use. Now this is the way filter operates. So let's look at, we are given the magenta filter. Now this magenta filter will allow the colors that combine together to form the magenta to pass through. So blue can pass through and red can pass through. So if you use a yellow filter will allow red and green to pass through. If you use a cyan filter will allow blue light and green light to pass through. So let's talk about the one in this question. Blue will pass through and then red will pass through. So which color? The transmitted colors will be blue and red. Gabriele shines blue light and green light onto blue paper. Now, what is the principle here? When you shine light on a surface, the surface is going to reflect its own color, but it will absorb every other color. So, if blue fall on it, blue will be reflected. Then if green fall on it, green will be absorbed on the blue paper. So it's going to appear as black. So nothing will happen. So you just see black. So it's because the color is. Now Gabriela shines white light on a glass prism. So this is a glass prism, triangular glass prism. Now when the white light comes and fall on the glass prism, the white light that is coming contains 7 colors, which the 7 colors red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. But as soon as the 7 colors, they have the same speed, almost the same speed in vacuum, in empty space. But as soon as they enter into a medium, they travel at different speed, depending on their weight. When the white light enters into the triangular prism, red have the fastest speed. So red have the fastest speed, while violet have the least speed. So because the wavelength of violet is the shortest, while the wavelength of red is the longest. So this ability of triangular prism to split white light into this spectrum, into the different light that make up white light, is what is referred to as dispersion of white light. So this is the dispersion of white. Question 5. Vertebrates are classified into different groups. Draw a straight line from each group of vertebrates to match the best description of that group. So we have two major groups here, amphibians and reptiles. So let's look at amphibians. Amphibians have moist skin and they lay egg in water because they live in both land and water. That's how they call amphibian. Amphibian means two habitants. They live in two habitants. That is why they go. The next one is reptiles. Reptiles have scaly skin and they lay eggs on land. So you have lizard, you have snake, so they belong to this group. So these are the correct description of amphibians and reptiles when it comes to the nature of their skin and where they live. Shen investigates. So he makes a sound using a loudspeaker. The microphone detects. Shen write down the amplitude of the sound wave shown on the oscilloscope. This is the. He decides to position the speaker at different distance from the microphone. So the microphone is the detector, while the speaker is the source of the sound. So he's trying to investigate how the distance from the microphone will affect the loudness of the sound. So what does the amplitude of the sound wave measure? The amplitude of the sound wave measures the loudness. So what is the amplitude? Is the distance between this equilibrium line and the peak. Amplitude affects the loudness or the volume of the sound or the. It changes the distance from the microphone to the loudspeaker. He writes his results in a table. So this table shows the result that he obtained in the investigation. Distance from microphone to speaker. When it was 0, the amplitude recorded was 8 cm. Then he increased the distance to 10 cm. The amplitude reduced to 2 cm. He increased the distance to 20 cm and then the amplitude reduced to 1 cm. When he increased it to 30 cm from the microphone, the amplitude recorded was 0.5 cm. So the amplitude, as the distance increases from 0 to 40 cm, the amplitude decreases from 8 to 0. Chen increases the distance from the microphone to 50 cm. Predict the amplitude. Now, for us to, from this pattern, you can see, let's look at what is the common difference between 0.3 and 5. When the distance increased from 30 to 40, that is when he increased the distance by 10 cm, what happened to the amplitude? The amplitude dropped by how many cm? So let's find out. That is 0.5 take away 0.3, it dropped by 0.2 cm. So if he increased the distance to 50 cm, so with this rate at which it's dropping, you can see that for the first 10 cm, the amplitude dropped by 6 cm. For the next 10 cm, it dropped by 1 cm. For the next one, it is always dropping by half. So with that, so let's see half of the distance. So let's look at this. So if the amplitude is going to drop by 0.2 cm, so what will be the value that is going to measure? That will be 0.3 take away 0.2. So it's going to be between 0.1 and 0.3. So the new value can be 0.1 or 0.2. Anything you write between that value is going to be the amplitude that is going. He repeats the investigation. He uses distances of 5 cm, 15 cm, 25 cm, 35 cm, and 45 cm. Suggest why this is a good idea. It is to make it easier to see the pattern in his investigation. What is the relationship between the amplitude and the distance? So you want to understand the pattern. So the more value that he tries, the better for him to have a clearer understanding of the relationship between the distance between the microphone and the speaker and the effect that is going to have on the amplitude registered on the oscilloscope. Then it makes the result more reliable. It provides a larger range of results. So that is basically what having to try different distances have to do. But in this particular question, in order to make the result more reliable, but don't write the following as your answer. Do not write to get clearer results. Scientific investigation that have to be vague. It has to do with measurement of concrete information. So don't say to get clearer result, or don't say to spot anomalous result. No, this is not to spot anomalous result. Spotting anomalous result is for you to eliminate error in the experiment. This is not about eliminating error. Okay? And then don't write to get accurate result. It's not accurate result because for every reading you have different answers. So it's not about accurate result. And do not say to make the result fair. It's not fair. If you are talking about a fair test, that means you are using a constant value. But in this case, he is using different value. So don't say, because most students had the tendency, most students that wrote this exam wrote to make the result fair, and it was wrong. So it wasn't issue of a fair test. Let's go to the next. Question 7. Raji collected seed from apple and grows them until they become trees. Some of the tree produce large tasty apples. Other tree produce small apple that cannot be eaten. Write down the word used to describe differences within a species of an organism. That is variation. So variation is the biological term used to describe differences between species of an organism in an ecosystem. Raji wants to produce new variety of apple tree that have large tasty fruit. Write down the word that describes the type of breeding he uses. It's called selective breeding. Do not write genetic modification. It's not genetic modification because it's still the same species, it's the same breed, but what it's just trying to do is trying to pick on the one that have the quality or characteristics or properties that are required. So he's using them to produce other offspring. So it's called selective breeding. Now, name the part of the cell that contain the genetic material. That is the nucleus, and the nucleus contains the chromosomes that contain the genetic traits. So it's the chromosome that carry the part that control information. So we've come to the end of part 1 of this review. I want you to go to part 2, which contains question 8 to 14. Subscribe to Super Easy Physics and Mathematics. Share the video with your friend so that other students like you can also benefit from what you are doing here.
Subscribe and we will help you to easily upgrade your performance to an A+.
SEPAM is the solution to better grades.